So, so really hoping that we don't see a breakdown. We see cancellation of games. I'm a little worried we're going to, but being an outdoor sport, I'm really hopeful that we're not going to have that happen. That just worries me a little bit. So, if you guys saw my post on my other Facebook page about the advice for rugby, the advice for rugby players was to not shake hands at the end of the game. I thought that was kind of funny. So we're gonna do. That made me laugh. So, listen, a lot of great questions, a lot of good stuff going on in our group this week. I want to just make sure that everybody's kind of up to speed on a couple things. Like, so this time of year, I've got athletes who are in the middle of their season. I've got athletes who are almost at the end of their season, or not, sorry, not middle of the season, or they're just starting their season. My bad. This is it's interesting, kind of how it comes about depending on weather. So I want everybody to just kind of know that there's a couple things right now that everybody should be thinking about when it comes to their season and how they are working with their coach and how they're working with their teammates, and they're getting prepared for the summer. Again, this whole coronavirus thing is making things a little bit weird for everybody, and so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Holy smokes, guys! I apologize. I'm trying to get back up over here. This is not cool. So Facebook is throwing all sorts of updates at me all of a sudden. So so if you're on live right now, just leave me a comment. Like, how's the season going? Like, is your goalie playing? Are they on the bench? Are they having a good having a good season so far? They're not having a good season. I know I've been talking to a lot of parents, a lot of our Lacrosse Goalie University members I've been working with. It's always a little bit up in the air. People start the season and they're hopeful it's going to be great, and then other days it's not great, and it's always unfortunate. So, Lauren Redfern, good to see you. How's your dad doing? I haven't seen him on for a bit. So, let's. Oh my goodness, come on, Facebook, you're killing me here. Camera. Holy smokes, guys! I apologize for this. There we go. Wow. Just gonna go live here. Sorry, everybody who's waiting on me again. This is not cool. I love how Facebook throws these updates at you while you're trying to go live. It's not like you practice going live before you go live. And they're like, oh, hey, here's an update. So, all right. Ryan Putney just getting started. Very good. Hey, Mom. Mom's on. All right. So I hope we're in there. Okay. Hopefully we're in. So I just wanted to talk about some stuff today that's so questions that came up in the group, as always. When people join the group, I make everybody answer 3 questions. If they don't answer the 3 questions, I don't let them in. So just so you know, if you've referred somebody and they're like, oh, he hasn't let me into the group yet, it's like because they didn't answer the question. And I don't check to see if it's a referral. I don't check to see if it's like your wife and you're saying, hey, you got to join the group. But just have them answer the questions. If they haven't, just rejoin and answer the questions. Dave Nord writes, son's having a good season, although his main head just broke. Oh, bummer. Katie is about the same as before, still political, crazy stuff. Yeah, not cool. There's that. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. I'm going to touch on the political aspect of lacrosse and sports and kind of how this goes. So Christine Snyder, good to see you. All right. So first question that I wanted to cover this week, and if as always, if you're new to me, or if you're listening on iTunes, I'm Coach Edwards, Jonathan Edwards. I run lacrossegoalietips.com, which is the longest continuously running lacrosse goalie blog on the planet. You are hearing questions that are asked to me by parents across the country and up into Canada and sometimes over in Europe, which is cool. I also run athletespecific.com. Kind of that's my big deal is I coach athletes in a variety of sports on mental conditioning, mental performance. I was a high school All-American for lacrosse, a Division I recruit. I was also an Olympian. So I come at this from a pretty different angle. But I've been around lacrosse goalies for a really long time, And so this whole idea of I come at this not from an old school way of thinking. I come from it as a very progressive way of thinking because I want your goalie to succeed. And there's certain things in the sport of lacrosse that are old, outdated. They're really keeping athletes from thriving, from goalies from thriving. And I want our goalies not just to survive the position, but to thrive. Okay. And so that's what you're going to hear a little bit today and every week. And so if you haven't downloaded the cheat sheets over at lacrossegoalietips.com, please do so. They're going to help you kind of with a lot of great philosophy there. And also our Facebook group at Creating the Lacrosse Goalie of the Future is full of great people. And I'm looking to change the game of lacrosse one goalie at a time. So thanks for being part of that. Okay. So, hey, Christy Johnson, good to see you. Fred Ryman in. Fred, first time in, I believe. I haven't seen that name in before, but the first thing we're going to talk about this week is how to advocate for drill time versus getting shot on in offensive drills. Okay. And let me translate this a little bit, this question. This is usually asked like this: how do I keep my goalies safe and not get peppered and shelled on during practice and feel like we're making progress? How's that? Is that a better translation of that question? It was so well put. How to advocate for drill time versus getting shot on in offensive drills. So my answer here might surprise people. So I believe that every ball that's shot at practice is an opportunity for a goalie to learn. Okay, but that only happens if a goalie feels protected. And in past Facebook Lives that I've done, I talk about this a lot, and offer also on my website, athletespecific.com. Talk about brainwaves and athletes. And so what happens is that when your athlete gets into fear mode, when your goalie gets into fear mode, they're not learning. It's not possible to learn, and we don't want that. We want our goalies to be in a situation where they are in not high beta waves, but they're just down a step. Okay, and so when your goalie can be nervous. And which is actually excitement. It can be phrased the same way. The same neurochemical response can be phrased this just slightly differently. Instead of feeling like nervous and scared, they can be just excited and know that their body is prepared to play at a really high level. Okay, so we want them to not be so nervous and upset and fearful that they're like, that we've triggered that fear response. That fight or flight response. We want them to be just a step below so we can make the most of that. All right. So, but I get it. In a lot of practices, goalies are put in the cage and they're really not respected. And the blog post I did this week at lacrossegoalietips.com, I suggest you check it out, share it with coaches and other parents, other goalies, is all about, how to get more kids to play and how to keep them in the cage. And one of the things that I believe needs to happen is that coaches need to respect the position. And a lot of times they don't. So if they're not respecting the position and they're just throwing your goalie in the cage, there's this feeling that, oh my God, the only way my goalie is going to learn is if they're out of the cage. So I take this a little bit differently. And the only way this is going to change, if your goalie stays in the drill, in particular, in the offensive drill, is if they're protected. Okay. So we can protect goalies with padding on them. We can soften the ball, and we can also limit the distance the shot is taken from the goalie. Another thing to just understand for all the coaches out there is that, after like 3.5 minutes of solid shots on a goalie, they're kind of gassed, right? They're exhausted, right? So we don't want them. You wouldn't go to the gym and do 20-pound bicep curls for 3.5 minutes, right? You're just not getting the same out of it. You're going to do some, and then you're going to take a break and rest and then come back. Because what we're trying to do when we're trying to wire in a goalie is we're trying to make sure that the response is appropriate and that it's crisp and it's fresh. And if they're the only goalie and they're just in that drill the entire time, that's not good. After about 3.5 minutes of shots, I would say for an experienced goalie, they're going to start getting really tired, showing signs of fatigue, and then they're going to start getting hit and hurt, and we don't want that, okay? So what I want to do is I want you to understand that I don't necessarily feel that your goalie is Justin Thornock. I see your question. I'll answer that in a second. So what I want to have happen is that your goalie needs to they might need to take on their own protection, right? If the coach is not really on top of it, maybe the coach just doesn't know, they're understaffed, whatever. Your goalie needs to pad up, right? And they need to, and this is almost one of those things where they need to go to the sideline, they need to get on all their gear, and then they need to get in the cage. And if anybody gives them a hard time, your goalie's got to speak up and say, like, you guys suck so bad at shooting, I know you're probably going to hit me, so I'm prepared for that, right? Something along those lines, right? But I don't want you to feel that the only way your goalie is going to get better is if they're having alone time with a coach. That's really not, I think that's not necessarily what needs to happen here. Now, I try really hard not to do this, but I'm gonna just kind of rewind to when I played, okay? And the expectation I had as a goalie, and what I liked to have, what sometimes I didn't get, but what I had to survive. So my team was lucky enough we had an assistant coach, okay? So that I showed up at practice a little early. Not a ton, but I got enough time with Mr. Scully. Mr. Scully was our assistant coach, and he was awesome. And he would shoot on me, and we would do just like your basic warm up. I have that all set up in Lacrosse Goalie University if you want to check that out. But what happens is that I would just do a simple warm up, and then we were in drills, right? We were doing line drills, we were doing fast break drills, whatever. And that was my expectation of what I was going to get in practice. What's happened now with the internet is that everybody is sharing these, like, all sorts of drills, some of which are completely not appropriate. And so now we goalies feel like they get to practice and they should be doing some of that. And a lot of those drills come from camps where if your kid goes off to camp and you've sent them off for camp for 3 days, they need to be entertained. So people are going to start creating drills for drill's sake, but not for maybe what your goalie needs. But what happens is when your goalie gets to high school, where everybody is right now, they're wondering, like, well, why aren't we doing that, like, ball toss drill that I saw the Goalie Smith guys doing this summer, which is crap, by the way. And so there's an unnecessary expectation that goalies and parents think that their kid needs to be having one-on-one time at practice. And really that's not true, because here's why. I want your goalie in an offensive drill so they can learn what shooters look like. They can learn what the pace of the ball looks like. Will they get hit with the ball? Hell yeah. Whose responsibility is that? Well, I believe that I want a goalie to be safe, but I'm also not going to wrap your kid in cotton balls and say, oh, Jimmy, it's all going to be okay. No, your goalie needs to be able to survive a level of abuse. Like, let's put it that way. It's abuse, okay? So, but a rising tide raises all ships. If your goalie is a soft little flower, right, then that's not helping them, the goalie, or the team. Okay, so because the worst thing that, from a team perspective, is we can only do on game day what we really master in practice. So if my team, if I have to completely modify everything I do for your goalie, then what's going to happen is that may translate to, oh, my kid doesn't take a shot in game that he held off on in practice, right? So there's a little bit of responsibility. So for one, I don't want you to feel like your goalie isn't learning if they're not getting one-on-one time, right? I want you to also know that your goalie is learning when they're in those drills. That being said, okay, for those of you that heard me for a long time, I don't want to abuse your goalie so that they quit. That's never my point. And there's a lot of people who think like, oh, goalies just got to toughen up. They got to suck it up. No, I'm not that guy. Right? I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy. All right. But there is a point where your goalie needs to kind of step it up a little bit. But what can we do to make that happen? I believe that every shot taken in practice is a chance for your goalie to learn. However, they need to be protected. We need to soften the balls, or we need to move the pace of the shooter back, right, to get them to a point now when they're over that hump where they've got mastery. They've got mastery over the ball, and that makes sense. So Justin Thornock writes, "What about adding defense to the shooting drills, both offense heavy and defense heavy?" Listen, I'm for it, but here's what we have to understand is sometimes depending on the level of play that you have. Okay. There's a great video by Championship Productions. Okay, for a lot of you guys, you might know Championship Productions. It's an old video now, but it's done by the Salisbury coach, and I wish I could remember it right now. It's offensive shooting drills, right? And what they're doing is that this is a Division III team. Salisbury is a phenomenal Division III program. They are doing basically 1-on-0 drills with their attackmen so that they can focus on their dodging and their stick protection, and they can do that without a defender. All right. So there's times when that's appropriate. There's times when we need to get a defender in there to give them a little bit more of a challenge, right? So this is all progressions. So Justin, this is a great question. So it's all about progression. So, is your team, sometimes teams will have really good attack, and then their defense are horrible, right? The defense has horrible lateral movement. Well, I might take those defense over on the side and teach them how to drop their hips and shuffle, right? Because even if I put them in this drill against the attack is going to run right by them, and so that doesn't make sense. So in this case, I would use tennis balls. So if I've got attackmen working 1-on-0 on the goalie, it's 100% tennis balls. There's no reason for it to be lacrosse balls in this case. And I want those attackmen to go up. And when they're shooting on the goalie, I want them to work on something. I want them to fake high and shoot low or around the goalie. I'm not just going to let them go, right? Because I want them to develop the technique they need come game day, right? So if your kids are, if the attacker just coming up and they're faking high and then firing it into the chest of the goalie, that's where a coach needs to step in with those attack and go, listen, we need you on game day to be better than that. So we can't do anything quickly that we haven't mastered slowly. The same thing goes with our attack. So I'm going to have them come in and say maybe it's like 50%, right? It's 50% speed. And I'm going to have them do their dodge at X and drive up to what's called 5 and 5. So 5 yards out from the cage, 5 yards up. And then we're going to do a roll dodge. We're going to do a roll dodge, keep the stick in the same hand and go far side. Like I'm going to do all that because I want them to learn the drill as well. And I want my goalie to know, all right, the ball's going far side pipe. So I'm going to hold my post. I'm going to watch the guy. Okay, he's up 5 and 5. He inside rolls, and then they're going to tuck the stick and they're going to boom. So what's the goalie doing? The goalie is watching for the head of the stick, sees that the hands and it remains the same hand, and then the stick comes up and then it goes far side. That's the stuff I'm teaching. Okay, that's the stuff that I want to have happen, right? And so I'm teaching the attack and I'm teaching the goalie. And I'm letting everybody know that, this is a team building drill, all right? So listen, Kevin, who's on attack and who likes to fire the ball at the goalie's legs, we can't have you fire the ball at a goalie's leg on game day. So don't do it to our goalie in practice, okay? So that's the stuff I'm teaching. So does that make sense? Rick Reinecker, no Flowers playing goalie. Yes, Rick, but we'll get there. Right, I love the saying about flowers. Like, when you want a flower to grow, you don't start pulling at that first, that little thing that pops up. What do you call it when the thing pops up out of the ground? The bud, right? You're not pulling at it, going, "Grow, roses, grow." No, you're waiting. You're waiting. Okay. Walter Siegel, number 2 is the most important. Paying for camps and private. Okay, I'll get there. So good stuff. Holy smokes, a lot of people in. Dave Wentworth, Jonathan Redford, good to see you. Carl Smith, Rich Kapatic, where you been, buddy? Haven't seen you forever. Okay, so number 2, how to weigh a goalie's potential versus their want to play the position. So I wish I remembered the mom who wrote this. I apologize. I need to start copying the names of the people who write these questions so I can make sure I get back to you guys on these. But I can see how this question comes up, right? A lot of parents, they see, we see potential in our kids, right? And we know that, they could be so good at this, but they're not really keen on playing. Okay. So this is where what I believe that we can't force a kid to play goal. However, we can put them in a position to enjoy it more than what happens with most coaches and teams. I think everybody would agree with that, right? So when we had a discussion a few weeks ago and I had to kick people out of the group because it was just not the attitude I want to portray in this group. Okay, the idea was like, oh, kids just got to toughen up. No, we have to give them a chance to be able to thrive. Okay, so when a goalie has potential, now they may not want to play the goalie position. They may want to play midi or attack or what have you. Well, that's an interesting discussion. I had a Lacrosse Goalie University client. This was 2 or 3 years ago. College kid, had been a goalie all through college, but also was had a phenomenal stick, right? And this goalie was he was about 5'6", so a little on the small side for the boys, right? But got to college and there was another goalie there, right? And this goalie that I had been working with was slightly better than the other goalie, okay, on kind of the ability scale. But on the motivation scale, he was kind of going like, oh, I think I'd rather play attack. And so I told him, listen, talk to your coach. And here's what you need to talk about. You have more motivation to be out of the cage than in the cage. Then then would this work? Because sometimes the team needs a goalie, and sometimes your kid is the only kid that has played goalie, has showed like an inkling to play goalie. Like I still remember 5th grade, Mr. Winslow asking our team that had no goalies on it, "Hey, who wants to be goalie?" And me and Mike Moyer, like the two of us were like, "Yeah, we'll be goalie." And that began my run at being a lacrosse goalie. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? A lot of kids can relate to that. And so what needs to happen is one, you've got to talk to the goalie honestly and openly about their motivation. And sometimes, it's like, hey, listen, I can't remember who said it this week in the group, but they made a great point. There's like, every team knows that there's positions that need to be filled, right? You need 3D, you need 3 middies, you need 3 attack, right? You need the goalie. Girls, it's the same thing. We got offensive players who can score. We got defensive players. We got goalies. We need somebody to fill those positions. And kids tend to always step up. Now, there's temporary step-ups and then there's permanent step-ups, right? Depending on where you live, depending how big your program is, depending on whether it's, high school or club, not so much club, but high school, I get it. And so, that's all stuff, unfortunately, you have to weigh. But if you're, like, let's say your goalie is, in this case, when we're weighing a goalie's potential versus their want to play the position, let's say your goalie is a big dude or a big dudette, not very fast outside the cage. Where do you put him? Well, the best coaching advice I ever heard, if you got a big kid, I don't know if you guys saw that Instagram post that went around this week, that like dude was like, kid looks like he was like 275 pounds, about 5'8", and he's playing midi. And he's just got to stick out to the side and he's running by everybody. Well, let's say your kid's that kid. Where do you put him? I put him at attack, right? He's not enjoying goalie. I put him at attack. But let's say you're looking like collegiately and you're thinking like, okay, right now my kid is wants to play attack, but he's the best goalie in our league. But he's not going to be a collegiate goalie, or she's not going to be a collegiate goalie. If they want to play in college and they want to play and they're going to be better out than in the cage, then I would say put them out. But it's not an easy decision. But I think for a lot of people, you can't force a kid ultimately to be a great goalie. You can force a kid to be your goalie, right? You could force your kid to be your team's goalie, and maybe they're the best goalie you've got. But long term, for the love of the game, we got to see where they're at. And maybe they step out for a season, right? Maybe they go play attack for a season. Maybe it's something they need to just get out of their system. Or maybe it's something they get out of their system. They realize like, oh, I wasn't very good at attack. I'm going to go back at the goal, right? Or something like that. So that can help. So Chris Stevenson asks, hold on, let me just get my phone open here. 90-minute practice. How much time for live shots? Do you need to warm up the goalie before live shots? If so, for how long? Sub question, how to balance the above if the kid is 10U and still needs time practicing as a midi? Okay. Chris, great question. Listen, live shot, you can do a whole practice of live shots. Like I do academy sessions with shooters and goalies, and all we do is shoot for 90 minutes. Okay. Now, it's like lifting weights, right? You're not going to bench press your entire time. You're going to mix it up. You're going to have time to go hard, and you're going to have time to progress, and you're going to have time to. It's all based on an athlete's 3 key abilities. For parents who might be new to me, if you head over to my website, my other website, athletespecific.com /3, the number 3 keys, KEYS, watch that video, and that's going to help you with this. But Chris, you can pad up a goalie, you can use tennis balls, you can do what you want, but I'll tell you this, your goalies aren't going to be very fresh for 90 minutes. Now, do you need to warm up the goalie? That's a great question here, because the thing most people miss is that a warm-up is not to just warm up your goalie for balls, right? Okay. Here's where most coaches try to do too much with the same drill, okay? I see this a lot on Instagram. People are posting videos of here's this all-in-one drill for lacrosse goalies. We're going to do a ladder, and we're going to cradle, and we're going to spin, and we're going to make saves, and we're going to do wall ball. No, you just ruined everything, okay? You now, it's like the joke about triathletes. No offense to my triathletes out there, but the joke about triathletes is that they're horrible swimmers, horrible marathon runners, and horrible cyclists, right? When you compare them to someone who just swims and someone who just cycles and someone who just runs. Okay. So they're crap at all 3. So do you need to warm up your goalie? No, because I believe you can warm up your goalie through your shooting drills. Okay. I believe this is a big waste of time and energy. It's like, what is a pass but an accurate shot to a buddy, right? That's really what it is. So instead of doing line drills, let's get your goalie in the cage. Everybody's done some sort of movement prep prior to this. Now let's get your goalie in the cage, and let's have your kids do alley dodges and shots, and tell the guys where to shoot, stick side high, off stick side, whatever. And that way, you're making your shooters more accurate. You're telling them where they need to go with a shot. Your goalie's learning, and the goalie's learning a ton because they're learning how to read sticks and shooters and all that stuff, right? So, do you need to warm up the goalie before live shots? No. But I would put them in some sort, and I lay this out inside Lacrosse Goalie University in more detail, but tell your shooters where you want the ball. Okay. And if they can't hit a spot, let's say you tell all your shooters, what I'll do a lot of times with my younger guys is I'll say, I want all the shots up top, like top half, top third of the cage. Right. And then I'll switch it up and say, I want all the shots down low. If they're more, if they're a higher level team, I'll say, okay, I want all the shots stick side high or off stick high, whatever. And I'll tell, if a kid comes down and he hooks the ball into the dirt, I'll be like, yo, Kevin, what's the deal? What if we need that shot with 5 seconds to go in the game and it's our chance to win? Can you do that? And he'll go, no, I can't, coach. I'm like, well, what's your problem? So it's a better demand all the way around. And so sub question, how to balance the above if the kid is U10 and still needs time practicing as a midi? Just rotate them. You don't have to have a goalie in the cage. This always floors me. It's like when people ask, all right, I need a goalie in the cage so my shooters get better. This is true. Your shooters will get better with a goalie in cage. I believe this. I did that post a couple months ago about how it all starts with the goalie. When the goalie's better, shooters get better. When shooters get better, teams get better. Teams get better, programs get better. When programs get better, leagues get better. When leagues get better, kids get better, and it's all back to the goalie. But that being said, the mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Okay, and so if I've got Kevin and he's my attackman, and I've got Karen, and I'm telling him, all right, you're going to do a roll dodge here, you're going to do a split dodge, and you're going to shoot the ball, and I want you to shoot it top corner right side, right? no, there's no goalie in the net. So I got to tell them I want you to put the ball inside the right pipe or inside the left pipe, whatever. If they can't do that with a goalie not in the cage, how are they going to do that with a goalie in the cage? It doesn't matter. The goalie's irrelevant. It's just they're just hitting a spot with their stick. Okay, so with the ball. So I don't need a goalie in the cage. So take the kid out of the cage, have him run midi. Have him run half the practice at midi or whatever you need to do. Switch up your goalies. Put rubber chickens with bells attached to them in the hanging from the crossbars. Have your kids hit that. Just have fun with it. It's always floors me when I see kids before practice and there's no goalie in the net, and more importantly, there's nothing backing up the cage, and kids try to pick top corner, and what happens? They miss it, and the ball sails like 50 yards, and it's in the trees, and coach is wondering where the case of balls is gone, right? I want that kid to hit the middle of the net. Right? Just aim for the middle of the net. Pick a diamond of laces in the middle of the net. Hit that, right? Because hitting a spot is hitting a spot no matter where that spot is, right? And yes, is it nice and rewarding when you get, bar down and all that stuff? Yeah, but it's way more effective to get 20 shots before practice than to get one and go off to try to find your ball in the woods, okay? So that really that floors me, okay? So question number three is, what's the goalie's role on the team? Now, this is a really cool question. Is he or she a ball stopper or a ball clearer? What if they aren't mobile, and what happens then? Okay. So I will fight this till the end of time. There's been this debate for some reason for years. I don't know why it's a debate. It's not a debate in my mind, but it's like, what do you want? A goalie who can stop the ball or a goalie who can clear the ball? It all starts with a goalie stopping the ball, okay? It all starts there. No argument, okay? If your goalie can't stop the ball, guess what happens? The ball goes back to the face-off, and you're facing off again, and now the demand goes to your face-off midi or your fogo. So it goes back to the face-off. So the demand now goes to your face-off specialist. If your team doesn't have a face-off specialist, or if you're not winning face-offs, that ball's coming down on offense. Now another shot is getting taken on the goal. So now the other team has had 2 shots on your goal before you've had 1 shot on their goal. Okay? If your goalie's not a ball stopper, guess what happens? That ball goes in the net again. Goes for another face-off. Let's say you don't win the face-off at that point. Ball comes down in your defensive end for a 3rd time. Now that other team has 3 shots before you've had any shot on offense. Okay? And I could go on with this forever. So let's say now your goalie makes the save on that 3rd shot. So you're down 2-0, but now your goalie has the ball. What I think is always a little unfair is when we say, can my goalie clear the ball? Clearing is a team event. I have a really old YouTube clip that's on there about it's if you just go to YouTube and just type in like easy clear for most lacrosse goalies, you'll see it. You'll see me with like no beard and no wrinkles and things like that. But just watch that video, because here's what happens is when the goalie has the ball, the clearing is a team event. All right. So first and foremost, players need to be in position in order to give the goalie a chance to clear the ball. For example, like if there's nobody in the goalie's face and we've got 4 seconds for the boys and 10 seconds for the girls, and then that goalie comes up the field. Now it's what's the plan here? What are we doing? Right? Who's going where? When do we draw? Like, where's the goalie supposed to go? Who are they going to draw? And then who are they going to dump to? Because now if Jimmy dumps it to my defenseman, but my defenseman can't catch and throw, well, the clear breaks down there. It doesn't break down with your goalie, right? So the demand and the expectation on the clear is it's a team event. If someone is just off the crease and is ready to jump your goalie, well, we've got to get people the spots so that the goalie now knows where to throw the ball. For those of you that have any sort of involvement in football, you'll understand that quarterbacks have what are called reads, okay? So reads. where the play is done and the play is drawn up and the quarterback gets the ball and the quarterback looks to read number one, READ, by the way. So read number one. And if it's not there, the quarterback goes to read number two. And then if option number two is not there, then they're going to read number three. And if read number three isn't there, then it's like a free for all and we're improvising and hopefully something happens. And sometimes the quarterback will throw the ball out of bounds. So in lacrosse, we have a very similar situation, right? Goalie gets the ball. Where is read number one? Where are they going to go? Right? So then what's read number two for that in this particular clear? What's read number three going to be? Right? Just giving them, it's not that for lacrosse, it's not easy, or sorry, it's not hard at all. Right? It's actually quite easy. All right. But the idea is like we need them to be a ball stopper first, right? And then when it's time to clear the ball, as a coach, it's my responsibility to teach everybody else where to go. So personal experience. So my son, for those of you guys that don't know, so I'm from Boston. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where field lacrosse here is a gong show. And to be honest, I'm not involved. My son played last year for his first year in outdoor and did fine, but there was no coaching, like zero. It's just box kids outside and they play outside for the summer. And the idea is like the kids that stay with field in the fall are the ones who are serious because they do some trip. They either go to California or they go to Maryland or whatever. So it's like nobody coaches anything until until the fall comes around. And this drives me crazy because I watched this goalie who happens to have the same name as my son. Now my son was not a goalie, and but the goalie, there was no one knew how to coach a clear. And had they just watched my video, they would know. Like it's like they would have had like 1,000 times better idea what was going on than what they were teaching. And what they were teaching was actually wrong for field. That's where my like, you guys remember that movie? What was that Disney movie with the feelings? Somebody help me out. What's the movie? Oh, what was it called? But there was like joy and happy, and then there was like angry. There was the comedian Louis Black. That was me. I was Louis Black, angry, like where his head just turns to flames. That was me. Okay. So Morgan Stanford, how's it going? So Inside Out. Thank you, Lauren Redford. Oh, geez, feel so much better. But that was me on the sidelines watching this lacrosse program, which ironically I helped start 9 years ago and left in a very not a good situation. So, but here's the thing: is that clearing. I can take a goalie who, let's say, who's just started playing, they don't even know how to cradle, and I could put a goalie in a situation where it's like, okay, guys, listen, this is what we're gonna do. All right, when Karen makes the save, right? Jimmy makes the save. Sorry, no, Karen's a shooter. Janet is my goalie. Janet makes a save. Jimmy makes a save. We all need to be here, here, and here because this is what's going to happen. Because I know the worst cradler in the world can throw a goalie stick, even like a teaspoon, and get the ball to the next person if we get them set up. So I want my kids to be ball stoppers first, then clearers, and if they're not mobile, I can work with that. But that's when the team has to know. We're a team, right? We're gonna have kids that can do certain things and not kids who can do other things, and that's fine, right? That's okay. We got to teach that, okay? Michael, you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry I found out. Melanie, that was great. Thank you for all the Inside Out comments now. Okay, so Michael Civillo, if I said that right, writes, I use warm-ups with my goalies as a means to focus a portion of practice just on them. You disagree? No, Michael, if you have that time, if you have that ability, I love it. Because if you read my post on Monday at lacrossegoalietips.com, respecting the position, that is part of it. If you can give them that time. But one of the things that I also believe in, Michael, and for everybody else, is that sometimes I don't want your goalie showing up at practice going, practice sucks, coach hates me, they never give me any time, I never get any individual time, because a goalie doesn't have to have individual time if they're coming motivated to that practice. Because sometimes, I remember as a young up and coming goalie showing up to, for those of you who might remember, we had Bay State games. It was like Empire State games in New York. We had Bay State games in Massachusetts. Well, it was just like, let's show up and go. Some tryouts are like that. Your kid shows up and they're the goalie. There's no warm up, just go, right? So how are you going to survive that? That's where I want my goalies to be empowered to go to whatever practice they go to and be ready. Do your movement prep even before you step on the field, right? Do whatever you need to do to get prepared. And Michael, this is a good question because I've got some collegiate goalies this year who are in my Lacrosse Goalie University program who are on sidelines. They're not the starter. I've got some kids who are starters, obviously, but I've got some kids who are like going in cold, and then they're bitching and complaining that they didn't get a warm up. You've got to be ready to go, right? You've got to be ready to go. Like if you look at hockey goalies, when a goalie gets injured, right? They're not getting a warm up, right? They're just in and going, and so the question is, are you a pro or not? Like, you can be ready to go in. You've got to be mentally prepared. Physically, you can do warm-ups up and down the sidelines, whatever you got to do to be ready, get in there and go. So if you can give them a warm-up, Michael, that's fantastic. And that's a layer of love that your team can give to that goalie. But if you can't, I want my goalies to be proactive and ready to be empowered to get in there no matter what. Okay. And so that's really important. Okay. So, everybody, I hope these 3 questions helped you out this week. It's always floors me. 45 minutes goes by at a heartbeat. So, a couple things before we go is one, I want to coach your goalie. If you're not a member of Lacrosse Goalie University and you're not getting coached by me, why not? Because you're all going to spend like a couple $100 this summer waiting for the summer to send your kid to camp, right? And where your kid can get coached right now. And I can give you a camp's worth of content in every goalie audit I do, all right? And I will overwhelm you with information about your goalie specifically that you can apply right now, okay? So if you're not a member of Lacrosse Goalie, if not, why not? Like, let's go. Right, let's do it. I guarantee you that I will blow your mind in the first month, and if I don't, I'll give you your money back. That's my deal. You won't get that from any camp. You won't get that from any other coach except me, and I've got 25 years to prove it. All right, so if I can help you, then let's go. Send me an email, coachedwards@lacrossegoalietips.com, or you can send me a private message on Facebook, and let's get you going. Okay, so because I want your goalie. There's no need to wait for the summer to get coached, or there's no need to wait till there's a coach's clinic to learn, right? You're going to learn more from me in one of these than you do at a coach's clinic, okay? And also inside Lacrosse Goalie University, one of the things I do is I take the drills that you see popping up on Instagram and on YouTube, and I will critique them, and I'll tell you what's good about the drill and what's not, what's applicable for your goalie and what's not, and all that stuff. So I want to get you going. And every Wednesday, except when it's a powder day, like last week I went skiing, but every Wednesday at 1:30 Eastern time, I'm right here. So listen, yeah, Dave Nord writes, so this is great. I'm going to share this, Dave Nord. See you later. But Dave Nord said that the recommendation to save coronavirus was that kids should elbow bump instead of fist bump. But then his daughter, Katie, said, isn't everybody taught to sneeze in their elbow? And not their hand. So I thought that was funny. If you're not a member of our free Facebook group called Creating the Lacrosse Goalie of the Future, come join, answer the 3 questions, subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube. And if I can help you, email me, coachedwards@lacrossegoalietips.com. And last thing, I run another group, more general information for elite athletes with high aspirations, kids with big dreams, called Raising High Performing Athletes. Find us on Facebook. Come join me over there. I'll let you in right after this. I'm talking about, what are we talking today about? I can't remember. How to have, for some of my lacrosse guys, this might seem a little weird, but how to strategize at the end of your season to be great for next season, right? So for your athletic future. So today's topic is how to strategize for your athletic future. Covered this a little bit in my book called An Athlete's Guide to Winning in Sports and Life, which is on Amazon. I hope you all have a copy. If you don't, go get it. I'm working on an audio book for it right now. But yeah, I'm here for you guys. So have a great week, everybody. See you in the group, and let me know how your goal is doing. Cheers. Bye.